We bought this Fisker Ocean at the beginning of 2024 with hopes of watching it grow. But instead, we're here to tell you what it's like to own a car from a company that's gone bankrupt. Life moves fast sometimes. If you don't stop, you might miss the fact that in just 10 months, your car is only worth 20% of what you paid for it. We usually try to keep our long-term vehicles for about 20,000 miles and for a year or more, but this Fisker, it's a bit of a special case because since the company has gone under, that means no more software updates, and that also means that as time goes on, it might become harder and harder to unload. And the accountants should be happy to hear that because this thing only cost us about $70,000. only 70. So stick with us, we'll tell you what it's been like to live with the Fisker, what we liked, what we didn't, and of course, how much we might be able to get for it today. So why did we buy one of these in the first place? I went straight to the source, my boss's boss's boss, and our editor-in-chief, Alistair Weaver, to find out.
It's a question being asked a lot at the moment, why did we buy a Fisker? But the reality is Edmunds has a long history of buying up EVs, both from legacy brands and particularly from startups. We've owned pretty much every Tesla since the original Roadster. We've bought a Lucid, we've bought a Rivian. So in many ways, the Fisker was a natural evolution of that process. We're also quite excited by it because this was a car launching into something approaching the mass market. It wasn't a $150,000 luxury car. This was actually a $70,000, and that was for the top trim model. So an interesting vehicle for consumers.
That's right, folks. We do all this for you. Now, to catch you up to the present, a few months ago, Fisker officially declared bankruptcy, and that means that obviously they're not going to make any more Oceans, and their remaining inventory is being liquidated at bargain prices. But as current owners of an Ocean, the question that we are more interested in is, what does that mean for people like us who have already purchased one of these vehicles? That means that there won't be any software updates coming for the Ocean, and that's really what we were counting on to fix a lot of the things, especially with the screen that annoyed us with this vehicle. And it also means that some of the features that the Ocean was supposed to have, like adaptive cruise control and one-pedal driving, those won't be coming either. What about things like safety recalls? Well, Fisker announced a plan where they're going to have owners actually pay for those fixes out of pocket and then reimburse them until the US Department of Justice was like, no, you can't do that. So now Fisker has to pay for all those fixes up front. Then there's the question of where will you take the Ocean to get serviced? And the news on that front is actually a bit more positive. A nonprofit group named the Fisker Owners Association has negotiated access to the company's diagnostic tool for this vehicle, and they provided it to a grassroots network of service centers. So currently there are 21 service centers in the US and 3 in Canada that can work on the Ocean, and that number is expected to grow. It was also recently reported that as a part of Fisker's deal to liquidate its remaining inventory, that the vehicles currently on the road would also retain cloud connectivity for the next 5 years, and that's a lifeline to existing owners. So, things that we don't like about our Fisker Ocean, it's a long list, and it all starts with the software. So as a software-defined vehicle that shipped with some egregiously bad software, we were really counting on those updates to sort of fix those things as we went along. But as I said before, the updates have stopped, and that means that a lot of the things that annoyed us still do.
The key fob on the Fisker has been an annoyance since we got it.
You would press the unlock button for 15 or 20 seconds, nothing would happen.
Fisker's released a few OTA updates that were supposed to fix this connection issue, but it doesn't really seem to work.
Now, the other issue with our key fob is just that. It is key fob singular. We bought the vehicle, they only gave us one key fob as a cost-cutting measure. And that meant that anyone who drove the vehicle, we had to tell them to be super careful because this is the only way to get in. There was a Fisker mobile app that was supposed to allow you to use your phone to unlock the vehicle and use it as a key, but that never went online and it never will. Worked that time.
And then when we do get into the car, it won't recognize the fob to even start it or put it in gear.
As you can see, I have the key in my hand, but it says there's no key in the vehicle, so.
It's just really frustrating when the key that you own to a brand new car dies. Like, we've replaced the battery several times in 10 months of ownership, and it's frankly unacceptable.
No voice commands. That should be the charging menu. That should be the audio. No lane centering. Can't even get the fans to come up. The navigation system thinks that you're in Alaska for some reason when you turn it on. A failsafe they built into the system was that if you unweight the driver's seat, it actually shifts into park and puts on the parking brake. So something like this is a safety feature that you would want built in. But the problem is that the implementation of it just makes for a poor user experience.
The cameras in the Fisker are terrible. The image quality is bad.
Let me show you what he's talking about. As you can see from the diagram here, the Fisker has cameras all around, and it's got enough cameras to do a surround view camera mode.
But you don't actually get one.
Instead, all that Fisker includes is this not as helpful model. A top-down view would just be so much more helpful than anything that this provides. The other thing too is the backup camera, it actually lags.
So you could get into an accident and then watch it happen on the screen.
And that's not really all that comforting. Perhaps a change from the 2.0 software that we were looking forward to the most was the addition of the automatic vehicle hold feature. Now this replaces the hill hold feature that Fisker says our Ocean had before that we can never get to work.
So I'm in drive, but if I take my foot off the brake, I just start to roll away.
The other thing that really bothers me is that the phone connectivity hasn't really gotten any better. As you can see, I have my phone here in the car, and I'm the last person who drove it and the last person who connected my phone to the Bluetooth, but the car loves to turn on and tell you that there is no Bluetooth connection, and sometimes you even have to actually unpair your phone and pair it again to get it to work. Having to do that roughly 50% of the time that you get in the car, that gets real annoying real fast. Our time with the Fisker wasn't all negative. I mean, it was definitely mostly negative, but not all. There were things about this vehicle that we did enjoy, starting with California mode.
Once that thing gets all the way open, it is massive. It's really neat.
Look, for all the crap that we give the Fisker Ocean, and deservedly so, we can't really deny that it was a champ when it came to driving range. We got 358 miles on the Edmunds EV range test, and at the time, that actually put in the top 10 on our leaderboard.
But something else that I like is that they actually put solar panels on top of the glass, which acts as a trickle charger for the car's battery over time. It's really clever engineering.
Throttle response, super dull unless you're in hyper mode. But the thing does have 564 horsepower. Like, it gets to 60 in 4.1 seconds. It's really fast when you're on it.
One more thing about that acceleration. According to the car, we still have 493 out of our 500 boosts remaining, but I can tell you with certainty that we've tried to launch the car in boost mode way more than 7 times since, of course, we tested it, and it was in a U-Drags video. And for whatever reason, boost mode doesn't always seem to activate. And the funny thing is that even in boost mode, it didn't actually prove to be any faster at our test track. So this is really just kind of a gimmick.
The Fisker rides actually pretty nicely for most daily driving. It's smooth on the highways. It's more comfortable and composed than the Tesla Model Y or the Ford Mustang Mach-E, but it does not corner as well as either of those vehicles. There's definitely more noticeable body roll. But for daily driving, it's very, very good.
See? Glass quarter full. Now that our time with the Fisker is ending, there's really just one more thing that we need to know, and that is how much can we get for it now, and can we even find someone who's willing to take it as a trade-in? The first time that we took this vehicle in for a trade-in offer was back in March, and that was just 2 months after we bought it, and that was when rumors of Fisker's demise really started to go around, and at that time, our offer was just $21,000.
Oh, that's not good.
Which means that this vehicle lost about 69% of its value in just 2 months. Fast forward to now, 8 months later, and I took the Ocean to see if we even could trade it in. And the answer is yes, we could. And we even got an offer for it, which was $13,500. After losing all of that value in the first 2 months, only losing another 8 grand over the subsequent 8 months probably doesn't feel quite as bad as it should, because if you look at it, it's really not good. That means that in our time with the Fisker, it's lost 80% of its value, making this one very expensive dip in the sea. So what does this mean for us and buying cars from all these new automakers that keep popping up? I went back to the big man to find out.
Are we going to continue with this policy? Yes, we are. I think it's valuable consumer advice. And although this has been a painful lesson financially, we've actually learned a lot and been able to share a lot of that information with car shoppers across the US about what are the pitfalls of buying a startup brand and what happens if the vehicle that you own, the company behind it, goes bankrupt. So there are a lot of lessons.
You heard it from the man himself. Edmunds will continue to be a home for the newest vehicles from the newest makes, so we can tell you guys exactly what all these startups are made of. And of course, to keep up with all of the vehicles in our big garage, please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a single video. There are a few things that we can learn from the Fisker, and the first one is that first impressions are really important. Our Ocean arrived with software that was a complete mess, and if they had actually taken the time to sort of sort some of those issues out and make sure that it came out with all the features that were promised, it could have charted a different path for the company, but instead they got a raft of negative press and they were never able to really recover. For these companies that are trying to write the software themselves, if you're not able to get it right, perhaps something like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay being included in your infotainment system would really smooth things out for consumers. The second is that if you're going to buy a vehicle from a startup company, you really need to think about the financial health and security of that company. We don't want anyone to end up in a situation like we did, where you buy a vehicle and then within the first year of ownership, all of a sudden the company is gone. You don't really know what's going to happen for the future, and your vehicle has lost 80% of its value. For a company, it's not a good thing, but for a consumer, it's even worse. And the last thing is this: I have no idea how many lives Henrik Fisker has. He's kind of like a cat. He just keeps popping up. But I do think that if he tries to come back again, his next attempt might be met with the appropriate amount of skepticism.
Hi, I'm Henrik Fisker. Thank you for joining us in our shared vision of a clean future for all. And with you now sitting behind the wheel of your Fisker Ocean, you are part of that vision. Sit back and relax and get ready for the drive of your life. I'll see you on the road. Thank you.
No happy ending in that movie. So our plan now, sell the Fisker as quickly as possible and move on, and welcome in the next member of the Edmunds long-term fleet. Hopefully one that comes with more than one key fob this time. Thanks for watching.